Hello everyone, welcome to DeepTech Studio, and we have with us today Asha Jadeja Motwani, who is a multi-hyphenate herself. She is the founder of Motwani Jadeja Foundation, an angel investor and an NFT evangelist. And most importantly, she is a philanthropist. Asha has invested in over 100 startups and also launched the Rajeev Circle Fellowship to help Indian entrepreneurs connect and network with their peers, mentors, and seed investors in the Valley. Today, Asha will throw some light on how deep tech and its advancements in India are happening and what lessons we can learn from the investment trends happening in Silicon Valley. Welcome, Asha. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Asha, let's begin with the most important question. What is your opinion on the Indian deep tech ecosystem and the advancements happening in this ecosystem, and what are its applications, you think?
So yes, so I think in my own view, the certain vectors along which deep technology seems to be evolving is of course on AI and machine learning, as what we all know. It's an incredibly open and important field, and India is doing very well on that. The two things which India can do better actually is on quantum computing. So quantum computing, I know that first of all, I know that the government has tried to set up some kind of an entity and sort of allocate some funds towards quantum computing. Quantum computing, I think, is one of those few areas that really it needs a robust ecosystem. Funding it will not necessarily drive it. What's important for India is to have very deep connections with the quantum computing world here. And I would suggest, Vaishnavi, that you guys put your efforts into making a strong partnership with quantum computing at Google and perhaps at IBM, but most importantly at Google because it's far ahead. The second, sort of quantum computing / applications of quantum that space to be mindful of is DeepMind, which is a Google company based out of UK, actually out of London. So DeepMind is another entity that you must look at partnering with, keep an eye on them, work with them, invite them, visit them. You should have your fellows visiting them. In fact, I'm starting, along with IIT, I think it's called IIT Startup Accelerator with Manoj Goel and Monishi Sanyal. We are starting some kind of a fellowship exchange program at Google, where we want PhDs in computer science, math, and physics to come and spend some time at Google. So quantum computing is a big area where we are way behind right now because we don't have initiatives. I'm not sure if the IITs are doing that, but government should absolutely get out of it. Government has no business trying to create deep tech because what does government know, frankly, about it? It has to be through I would recommend IIT Bombay or IIT Kanpur, through which deep tech investments from the government should happen. It should never be independent of the IITs. Okay, so that's my advice to you. And the only reason for that is because we already have so much momentum there. There's already a lot of work going on especially in IIT Kanpur on computer science related deep tech. So that's something to keep an eye on. On Web 3.0, as you know, and I'm sure all of you are quite aware now, there's a lot going on in the crypto web, which we often call it sort of Web 3.0, which is also known as sort of the creator economy. And what that means is people like you and me can open a channel, let's say on YouTube, right? And let's say you start talking about the relationship between India and Afghanistan, right? And every week you have some speakers, or you just come online yourself and you give your thoughts about your own experience, let's say, on India-Afghanistan relationship. Let's say you can charge people. People can pay you for that talk. And I've been doing that. In fact, I've been pleasantly surprised. There are so many people that so many sort of YouTubers out of India now that give talks on things which are of great interest to a lot of people around the world. And, YouTube now offers you that facility whereby you can pay anywhere from $1 to $5 to $20 to $50 and pay for that talk. And it's interesting, right? Because that's a whole new creator economy that's coming up. And, social media channels are enabling that. I think Twitter has started offering that also now. So these are all avenues where India can grow heavily and fast because Indian programmers are already there. So on the NFT space, Vaishnavi, I just want to point out to you that Indian programmers are way ahead of most other programmers in the world right now. They are already, they started probably, my guess right now is that it was the Indian gamers and the programmers that started in 2010, around 2010, mining Bitcoins, right? And then getting into Ethereum and stuff like that. So when the NFT space started taking off in the last 1 year or so, Indian programmers have been the ones who have been able to buy this stuff, especially NFT art, because they're sitting on so much Bitcoin.
So, Asha, you're heavily involved with the startups and you're an investor yourself. What investment trends do you see in Silicon Valley right now with respect to deep tech?
Well, people are investing, there's a little bit of risky investment also going on in the crypto world, which is still very young. It's it's still incipient. It's very, it's just coming together. But you see, seasoned venture capitalists like Andreessen Horowitz and, few other venture VC firms around here that are investing in the crypto space, right? In wallets, in e-wallets, in banking systems, in all sort of non-banking crypto systems of finance and things like that. People are investing in that space quite a bit now. And I'm seeing that that's one trend that's going on. The second thing that I'm seeing people investing in is on e-learning. Especially after the pandemic, it's pretty clear to people that colleges and schools as we know them will be thoroughly repurposed less than 10 years from now. It's going to be very different now. What is this new learning going to look like? And I think a lot of that flows from what is the new nature of work going to look like. People are not going to be going to a 9-to-5 job as much as we think they will. So India has an opportunity to leapfrog, okay? We don't need to make the same mistakes as we made in the US or in Europe. Europe has made some mistakes and India can avoid those mistakes by leapfrogging and investing in technologies that move away from the requirement of, having necessarily the old-fashioned school buildings and colleges and stuff like that. For example, in America, college system is changing radically now. A lot of kids are beginning to ask the question about, like, do I really need to go to this 4-year college and come out $200,000 in debt when I can learn all this stuff online with a peer group, right? So people are asking those kind of questions. And I think that is something where India can and must leapfrog.
Got it, Asha.
So both, okay? So the creator economy, the NFT world, the new ways of learning, new ways of working, these are all things which are, things that we are all investing in here.
So if I have to ask you to sum up these things by drawing a comparison between the ecosystem in Silicon Valley and the deep tech ecosystem in India, if you could elaborate on the mistakes that both of them have, where are the gaps and how they can fill in and learn from each other?
If the Silicon Valley is moving at 5,000 miles an hour, Israel and China might be moving at 500 miles an hour, but the rest of the world is moving at 100 miles an hour. It's very slow. So I think the best way, if you ask me, for India to be moving faster on innovation is absolutely spending some of our top entrepreneurs spending more and more time in Silicon Valley, getting investments from Silicon Valley. It's important to do that. And the good news is that there's lots of that happening. If you look at Y Combinator, this year's batch of Y Combinator Indian startups, there are so many. This is great. This is a great sign.
Asha, but you said there are gaps obviously in both the ecosystem. What do you think those are? Let's
gaps in what? In which one? You're talking about India?
Let's talk about India first. Let's narrow it down. If there's something that it has to learn, if you say there are 5 lessons that the Indian investors and the entrepreneurs have to learn, what would they be from Silicon Valley, from Israel? that we can implemently, that is actionable quickly?
The first thing Indian government should do is make sure that some of our top startups are going global, are traveling globally, and are showcasing presenting their stuff globally. In the Valley, of course, is absolutely the most natural destination because it has got such a powerful Indian DNA, so it's critical to do this. But I also think that it's important that the Indian government spends money on sending our best startup founders to the US, especially to the Valley, and enables fundraising. And a lot of people can do it from here, but they need to get here. And Indian government has excellent funding set aside for Indian founders to really make a splash in the Valley,
Asha, these investments, when we talk about AI, ML, quantum, or also advancements in cybersecurity, these are high risk investments, and you don't know, some of them might give you a return. You have no idea about the exit strategy. How do you then attract investors to these kind of high risk appetite technologies?
In the first sort of wave of innovation, right? It's not a bad idea to piggyback and co-invest along with US Indian diaspora investors, right? So let's say somebody like myself, Vaishnavi, let's say somebody like myself is investing alongside Google Ventures in a deep tech company. What needs to happen in India is that some of the people in Indian venture capital can say that, look, let's partner. Let's see what people like XYZ Ram Sriram or Asha or some other really savvy, Naval Ravikant, all these savvy investors, what are people investing in? Let's get into that deal first. Let's just make sure that we are in that company first. To excel in it, right? So wo jo hai na, and wo ho raha hai, by the way, it's not that it's not happening. Indian angel investors are becoming very savvy, and that's a good news. I really think that it's, I think India is an unstoppable rocket ship now, Vaishnavi.
So Asha, you have invested in over 100 startups, and by now you would have an ironclad investment thesis ready. How has the evolution been? And for deep tech, where do you see the investment thesis going? What are the trends, and where do you need to make those tweaks?
You see, the thing is, my investments are all here, right, Vaishnavi? They are all in the US. They are all in the Bay Area. In fact, I don't even invest in Boston or New York because those areas are still lagging way behind the Valley. So most of my investments are here in Silicon Valley. And the way I invest is very simply in entrepreneurs that I've known for a long time. Typically now, because I've been in venture capital for so long, what happens is that I would say at least 60% of my startups are repeat entrepreneurs, people who have already had some exits and come back and done the second, third, fourth startup. But that said, I have invested in a few companies like Yulu Bikes, and there's another company I just invested in. Gosh, I'm just clean forgetting the name, but it's a self-driving, a robot that helps pick out things from warehouses, and that's an Indian company. So I have started investing seed stage investing in India now in the last 5-6 years, and I have about 20 investments in India by now. And these are, yes, they are a bit risky, but in general, I think, out of 20, let's say even if 2 exit well, I think I would have done well, So, and I piggyback a lot on my Indian venture capital friends. So I would say right now, there's no secret sauce to investing. It really is all about relationships, especially in a tight-knit ecosystem like Silicon Valley. So when I see a startup where I don't know any of the founders, right, I would typically not spend much time in exploring that. I end up, looking at startups where I know the founders, or at least through 1 or 2 degrees of separation, I know the founders.
Asha, continuing on the same lines, what are your other red flags in your criteria for selecting the startups?
So if the red flags, okay, so the red flags would be if somebody comes to you with a plan, with simply a business plan, and you know that they have not put in the time and the effort to really try and develop at least a pilot alpha version of their product, that's a red flag for me. Then I know that it's probably not worth my time. You want to see an entrepreneur who has put their passion into their startup. So at least they have created some product, they've tried to create some product, they might have failed, but at least they've tried, right? So that is something that I find is critical in my own investment, sort of. Let's say for all of you in India, first of all, kudos to the Indian ecosystem. It is the best in the world after the US and Israel. I really think it is even more promising than China, simply because India is a free society, and once we have our regulatory system in place, then I know that it's not, Indian ecosystem, I think, is so much more robust compared to China. So that's one thing I want to mention to you, that I personally am way more bullish on Indian startup ecosystem than on Chinese. And I just think it's going to do fantastic. We already have phenomenal unicorns and, a budding ecosystem in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Nagpur, Pune. So it's going to grow even faster.
Thank you so much, Asha. Thank you for taking time off and giving us these insights from Silicon Valley.